Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of The Insight on Equinox Television. I am Bable Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we're going to take a look at the recent happenings in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. And we're also going to talk about the prevention of violence before, during, and after elections in Cameroon, and why not on the African continent. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest in this edition of the program is a national and international peace crusader. Sylvie Ndongmo is a member of the civil society. She is the president of the Cameroon arm of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom with Cameroon, and she's coordinating that organization on the African continent as well. Her competence cuts across the African continent, and she's also the national coordinator of the women's or the Cameroon Women for Peaceful Elections. Sylvie Ndongmo, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to all the Equinox TV viewers. Thank you for inviting me.
Before, you were the president of WILF Cameroon, and recently your competence was extended to the level of the continent.
Yes, since 2014, especially 2015, at the Congress, we were recognized as a section, as a branch, full branch, as Cameroon, WILF Cameroon. Then after 3 years, you have to report to the Congress, and the last Congress took place in Ghana in August, and during the Congress I had to report on activities done in the country and even with other sections, and I was elected during the Congress Africa Regional Representative of the Women International League for Peace and Freedom.
All right, you're spearheading efforts to establish peace not only in Cameroon but across the African continent. Now, when you look at what has been happening in recent times in the northwest and southwest regions of the country with the crisis that have been deepening, killings continuing, bloodshed continuing, destruction of properties, burning of vehicles, villages, and so on going. What do you think about that situation?
The first thing I want to say is that I feel really annoyed. I know because we could have avoided it. Why am I saying so? Because my peace journey, my peace work started in 2008. I was in a teachers' trade union, and I had to travel to Burundi for a training in gender and peace and non-violence. And during the training in Bujumbura, I got into contact with other women from Rwanda, from DRC, from Burundi, and from other countries of Africa. So I listened to their experiences of conflict in their different countries, and I was shocked at the horrifying consequences of conflict and war. That's what pushed me to come back to Cameroon, to bring women together to say, please, can we try and start working in order to avoid what I've just seen in other countries. So I know why, because since 2008 and 2009, when we really started with an organization before WILF, it was called Women Peace Initiative. We started a kind of advocacy work in terms of trying to make the people know, especially the government authorities, know that it's very important to invest in prevention. One of the things that we did was to bring women together to create this organization called Women Peace Initiative. It was very simple, just to start working in prevention, educating for peace. So when we went to the divisional office in Douala to register the organization, I'm sharing it so that you know, we had an issue. They told us that there's no need registering an organization for women for peace. By doing so, you want to show. It's paradoxical. Yes, I was the one. They told me that by doing so, we want to show the world that Cameroon is not at peace. So from that experience, we took a kind of another strategy to tell them at everywhere that we went that when we talk about conflict, when we talk about peace building, it's not about managing conflict. The best thing to do is prevention. So it took us so long to convince, and we were not able to convince them. Sometimes you have to play around words in order to have the organization registered. So I'm just sharing it because had they listened,
the resistance coming from the administration, the same administration that preaches peace.
Yes, so I think that was in 2011 when we introduced our request. But I want to say that it's very simple. I can even understand, because Cameroon has long been considered in Africa as a very peaceful country, and we all have that history. So because of that, we kind of took peace initiative for granted. So that's why they didn't feel very important.
Was somehow neglected.
Very good. That's it. Was neglected. It was not that it's not important, but no, it's not a big issue. We have other issues. So that's why I'm saying that had we all joined hands to start working on building a culture of peace, we'll have been out of this. Now coming to the issue in Bamenda, in the Northwest in general, in the Southwest, it's horrible. We lack words to describe, because it's when there is no peace, as we can see, there is no possible development. We have the consequences are there. All the burning, all the destructions, children not going to school. What is very awful about this is that it's very easy to destroy. We can take a few weeks or only a day to destroy, but we will need years and years and years to reconstruct. So it's really a shame that we came to this situation. And I also feel that we could, even when it started 2 years back, we could have even worked to make it stop. But I feel that the way the issue was addressed was not really proper. And what we are witnessing today is just the consequences of mismanaging this crisis.
And now when you look at the way the crisis is being managed with notably military repression that is being implemented on the ground to crush the protests, to crush the quest for the independence of the former Southern Cameroons. What do you think about the use of military force at this juncture of the crisis?
I want to answer by saying that the organization that I represent, Women International League for Peace and Freedom, is 104 years today. We had the Cameroon branch recently, but it's an old organization that was created during the First World War. Why? Because of the damage, the consequences of the First World War in the population. So women, 1,136 women came out to say no to war, no to the destruction, and so on. And one of the things that our organization addresses is disarmament. We feel that the military responses are not the best. That's what the organization has been standing for 104 years. It's not about Cameroon. It's about questioning what are the root causes of conflict. And when you question the root causes of conflict, one of the things that fuel conflict is the use of military responses. So I feel that the military responses are not going to help. On the contrary, the military responses rather fuel violence because they are not sustainable. You know, I always say that, talking about this issue of the Northwest and Southwest, and even all the crises, because that's not the only crisis we have in Cameroon. We have so many riots every day from left to right, all the sectors. What's going on? There is something wrong in this country. But we have to sit down quietly and understand that we are here in this mess today because of the way we are handling this issue. So I feel that the military responses are not the best.
But government says that it's difficult to go the other way around in solving this crisis when the other party continues carrying guns and guns continue talking, so to speak, in the two Anglophone regions of the country. So how do you handle the situation when the other party is still carrying guns? And that's what the President of the Republic has been saying: drop your guns and come out of the bushes or we're going to crush you.
Though I want to say that even
was that the right way to go about it?
No, I want to say that even the way, you know that when you are trying to bring people together, when you are trying to build peace, you have to be very careful with the word you use and the way you use the word. So the president could have asked the same thing but differently. When you talk about if you don't, you are going to be crushed, that's not okay. We need to have an appeasing words that really calm down the situation. There is nobody on earth that will not be very sensitive to peace, to nice words. But when it's about threatening, no, that's not okay. So I feel that it's not about not being wanting to drop the guns. No, how do we proceed? So I feel that the way we are approaching the issue is not the proper one. That's why I think that there is need to rethink the strategy. But I also feel that the best thing to handle this situation is a change of mindset from both sides, whether the government or the secessionists. There is a need of change of mindset. Why? Because violence has never been a solution to violence. Never, never. So the government should rethink of how do we address it? How do we use nice language? How do we language that is really bringing cohesion, as they say? On the other side, it's about not using. You know, I'm a trade unionist. You can ask something and get it without using violence. So we need to change the mindset. We need to change the strategy. I'm just sharing this experience because why? Because when the situation started in the Northwest and Southwest 2 years back, I received a journalist and a colleague, a lawyer, who said over our dead body, I'm happy with what my brothers are doing. Over no. We never say over my dead body when we are talking about peace building. It's one step from left and one step from right. So it's the two parties working towards one another to bring a solution. When you start saying over my dead body, then there is something wrong. On the other side, the military response, I want to insist, are not okay. When you have the weapons, no, you cannot speak with somebody holding the weapon. No, it's not possible. So I feel that we should change the mindset and the strategies.
But what government authorities are saying, okay, the disarmament committee has been created, and they are calling on the pro-independence fighters, as they're referred to leave the bush and come to the normal life trend, and will be received, integrated into the normal life society. But the question that is coming up time and again is how to face somebody who is carrying a gun, how to go discuss with somebody who is carrying a gun, and so on.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the challenge is. And even before that commission, I feel that, to be very honest, the way the situation has gone up to, there is a need to... I just want to take the example of a family. When you are the head of the family, and the situation in your family, there is tension in your family, and when the tension, instead of reducing, goes worse, you need to stand up and speak out. And it reaches a point that if you use hard words, you are going to put your children apart. So I feel that for any other initiative to have success, I need that the head of state, for me, I want to talk about him especially. He has to speak to his, they've always put it, to his children, to his family. We are Cameroonians. He has to speak and change the words. When you say that you are going to crush...
Neutralize them?
Yes, to neutralize. No. People will not feel comfortable because the words that are being used are not okay. That's number one. Number two, they can also think that it's a trap because some were arrested because of the same situation, and all have not been released. So they might also feel that it's a trap that they are trying to set to arrest them. So I feel that if the head of the family comes, changes the language and reassure the population, I'm sure many will come out from the bushes. But when at the same time it's like we are going to be neutralized, no, there's something wrong. That's number one. And also, when they keep seeing all this military around, of course, military is also good sometimes in order for protection. But if the person who is in charge really takes the floor to say, no, don't be afraid. This is what we are going to do. I think things are going to change. It's just about the way, the language used to talk about the people. So I think that's why the problem is.
And another issue highlighted by some critics is trust. It's at the level of trust.
Yeah.
Because civil society organizations like yours and many other international organizations and politicians have been decrying the violation of laws of the land, have been decrying the violation of the constitution. So in this kind of atmosphere, some critics are highlighting the problem of trust, that even if these promises were to be pronounced by the head of state himself, come out, we will protect you, we will take care of you, we will insert you back into the normal life train, we're not going to arrest you and so on, there will still be a problem with trust. Trusting the people who are saying that, and trusting how much they will respect what they have said.
I do agree with that. I agree strongly with that because it's out of experience. People are not speaking out of nothing. They are speaking out of experience because we know that in terms of having laws, legal system, you have so many laws. So, but the problem always comes in terms of implementation. When it comes to really implementing this law, so when people don't trust, I can feel what they are saying, because we have been challenged, we have been annoyed in the past with this. But I also feel that we need, at a certain point, we need to stop. Well, that's what I'm saying, that of course it will be very difficult. I talk of change of mindset, because when it takes long to destroy, and even to destroy this confidence, it will also going to take long to rebuild. So I feel that whether from all sides, we need to rebuild that confidence, because what else do we expect him or the government to do? No, they have to now to stand by showing proof that we are really meaning what we are saying. For example, let me take one case. For example, if I can take the case of the election, I know that it's not very close to what we are talking about. Or even peace building. We have just had our National Action Plan. Cameroon has a National Action Plan for Security Council Resolution 1325. And the National Action Plan calls for more involvement of women in peace processes. So the resolution was adopted in 2000 at the UN. So it took 17 years for Cameroon to have a National Action Plan. We had it in 2017. Now it's about implementation. And one of the things that is inside the provision of the National Action Plan is that it is the Prime Minister who needs to sign a decree for the commission who is going to be in charge, which is going to be in charge of the Secretariat. Since 2017 till now, we don't have it. I'm just taking one example to show that I do agree with the people being a kind of skeptical, because there are more words than action. This is just one example. The resolution, the National Action Plan,
that's the problem of administrative.
Yes, it's about improving the security, prevention of conflict, and so on. So it takes 2 years just to sign a decree, to have a secretariat. No. How do you expect women to be involved in peace processes when even the decree takes 2 years to be signed? So I understand why people are skeptical. There is a need for the government to really work on all this bureaucracy, because it may create a lot of damage to the population. That's why people don't feel comfortable, because there is a big gap between what is said, or between what we have in the policy and what we have on the field. So building this confidence needs time. And the first person to take the first step is the government, because this trust has disappeared because of the way the government officials behave. So they themselves now to look for solutions, strategies, mechanisms, how to rebuild this confidence. So that's why I said one of the things, because when the ministers speak, they don't want to listen to, no, we are talking this, you are foolish things again. But if it all depends on on how it is said. I just want to come back again to the family situation. When a father comes and put the children around the table and said, no, we have been for so long not in harmony. We really need now, despite our differences, we really need, can we try and speak the same language? We know that we have all our differences. We know that we have done wrong to one another. But I think that it's time for us to sit back quietly and look into our issues and try. No. So if a father does like that, I'm not sure that a child is going to say no.
And for this to happen, the environment has to be conducive. And I guess this is why some political leaders and civil society organizations are calling for general or a ceasefire and a demilitarization of the two Anglophone regions of the country. Do you also agree in that?
Yeah, I do agree. That's what I'm saying, that I told you already that the military is not okay. Even from in the communities, sometimes it's true that the military are sometimes there to protect. But seeing them in this context, we know what the military has been able to do in these regions. Of course, not all the military have done wrong, but some have done things which are not okay. So it becomes very difficult to make a difference between the military who are working to protect the population and those other ones. So I feel that we need to try and demilitarize and put a ceasefire. Then without ceasefire, without having all the military around, it will be very difficult to start building initiative. But at the same time, I think it's just about strategies. It's about the language. To the point where we are, at some point, we need a military in one way or the other. But it's about communication. I think it's about how do we communicate. Like there are cases of military that made horrible things. If, for example, this military who perpetrated this horrible act were denounced, were punished, things like that, at least it could show the population that there is a kind of goodwill from that side. So from that, there's a lot of confusion. There are some military perpetrating horrors while others are doing their work properly. So it's all about trying to strike a balance, because the military, for me, to be very honest, it's not about, no, it's not everything, it's not negative. The military is there for the first purpose is to protect the population. But because some have perpetrated horrible acts, it now depends on the strategy, on the communication around their roles. It should be very clear. The community should know that this is what is going to happen. I think if the communication is really done properly, we are going to start on good basis. But I feel the ceasefire is very important to start the process.
For violence to cease from both sides.
Yes. And then you also talk about conducive environment. The conducive environment is what I just mentioned. It should start by you know that sometimes when you feel pain, sometimes a word that is uttered to you makes you to calm down. So even the speech, the real one that we expect from the head of state, is going to heal, is going to make people to calm down. And even this ceasefire that we are calling for, I think that it should be preceded with the head of state speech to calm down the people and to calm down and to bring all the children on the same table.
He has been talking to Cameroonians concerning this in his inaugural speech and other speeches that he made. He's been talking about this. Are you talking about a separate speech consecrated to this problem, addressing the people of the Northwest and the Southwest regions? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about two things. The first thing is that I've listened to the head of state since 2016. The only problem I have with the speech is that I know that he's the head of state, but at least when you are dealing about a very delicate situation, threat is not okay. For me, I feel threat. I remember in 2016, after the end of year speech, the violence increased because of the way he addressed the situation. Even recently, I can't remember very well, but there was some children coming out of a school in Yaoundé. Emia, very good. The word for me were not always very appeasing. So I feel that because all this occasion to calm down the situation for me have not been used properly, I feel there is a strong need to properly address these people from the northwest and southwest to talk to them. It's good to talk to them, to speak to them. That I am, because it's the head of state, it's the father who's speaking. I am aware of the situation. Please, no matter what our differences are, please can we come and sit together? Yes, I'm very sure that I have experience in this. I'm very sure that if the language is used this way, things are going to change. But each time I talk about it, they say that no, it's because you don't understand diplomacy and so on. But no, we are not talking about diplomacy. We are talking about people dying on the fields. We are talking about women and children. Because in this situation, you see that women and children are paying high price. No, when we are talking about people's life, it's not about diplomacy. Please, we have to forget this diplomacy, because as we are making diplomacy, people are dying on the field. So can we forget diplomacy and really address the situation? So it's about now speaking, talking directly to the people from the northwest and southwest to talk about the issue and to talk to them directly. I'm sure it's going to be a good start. And apart from the issue of the northwest and southwest, there are many other. Every day you hear of rallies or riots from left to right. No. There is something needs to be done in general. Something needs to be done, but specifically about the northwest and southwest, the people from this region need to be addressed directly on their situation, so that they will feel comfortable. They will not feel frustrated. So because there's a kind of frustration, people are frustrated, and then when you are frustrated, you have to have people have to listen to you. But when you are not listened to, it kind of makes you unhappy and radical in what you are requesting for.
All right. Right now we're going to receive, for me, Armstrong Sander with the press review, and when we come back, we will talk about the prevention of violence before, during, and after elections.
The Garden Post of Monday, February 4th carried as main story: in Batibo, wife, son, in-law killed en route to bury husband. Lugidion, Anglophone crisis, female victims narrate horrible experience. The Median, fallout of war, women now dig graves, bury dead in northwest, southwest. Eden quotes Governor Okala Bilai of southwest asking workers to come to work on Monday or face the law. Same story on the Star, work on Monday or get your salaries suspended. On same Monday, February 4th, the Sun said heavy jail term hangs over Kamto. Others, the Info question if January 26th upheavals, Kamto did punch more than his weight. The Post said UB students rubbish VC school attendance during ghost towns. Tuesday, February 5th, the Horizon announced that separatists split over 11 days lockdown of Northwest and Southwest. The Voice, ruthless killing of children, women, shameful episode in Anglophone conflict. The Guardian Post in another edition said despite government's apology, pressure mounts on Biya to flush Admomo from government. It comes back to say lockdown in Northwest, Southwest turns bloody.
Thanks for me, Armstrong Sander, for the press review. There's been a series of violent protests going on in the Republic of Cameroon, notably orchestrated by the party that came second during the October 7, 2018 presidential election, the party of Professor Maurice Kamto, the Cameroon Renaissance movement. And this has been going on for some time. Some persons arrested and detained. And this is, however, not the first time Cameroon is experiencing a violence after an election. And it is, of course, the case for many other African countries where violence are often surrounding elections. And we're going to talk about the prevention of violence before, during, and after elections with a peace crusader, a national and international peace crusader, president of WIV Cameroon, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Cameroon branch, and the coordinator of that organization at the continental level, and the national coordinator of Cameroon Women for Peaceful Elections, Sylvie Ndongmo. What's your take on what has been happening since the proclamation of results of the 2018 presidential election by the Constitutional Council?
I'm not very surprised of what is happening, because we are working with an early warning mechanism. The platform Cameroon Women for Peaceful Election has set up an early warning mechanism, working before, during, and after the election, to prevent violence, to report all the conflict-driven factors, and to educate population on the need to try and be as non-violent as possible throughout the election process. So when we started the process in 2016, we have been able to conduct a certain number of activities, and also a kind of incident reporting from the field, even before the elections. So we were able to know that there is a kind of malaise, long time before the election. A malaise which is not making us to know that this was like the way we chose to, where we chose to go. I remember when we had all these consultative meetings with different stakeholders, there's so many issues came, like for example, this issue of electoral code. You know that when you have to play a game, you have to play the game on the same ground, on the
level ground.
Yes, on the same level ground. When the level ground is not proper, there is a problem from the beginning. So for years, even after the last election, no, the last was one election, political parties, opinion leaders, civil society have been calling for the need to address certain provisions of the electoral code, because these provisions are making favoring the ruling party and are not okay. They are not proper. They are making a kind of discrimination to the other. So people have been crying. Even for women and youth, I can also refer to women and youth. If I take the case of the youth, for example, there is a need for the youth at least to be really involved in the process. But the same code says that you do, until you are 20, you cannot vote. Meanwhile, at the same time, you know that if you are 18, you can be jailed. So I think that this situation of policy, of the electoral code, for example, not being consensual, is a kind of explaining why we are having this type of situation. The second thing that is making me not to be very surprised is the security situation. We started the election in a very difficult situation, and I remember some political parties even said there was no need organizing election in such context, because the crisis in the northwest and southwest, with the influx of refugees in the east region, from the problem of Boko Haram in the far north. And you remember for the past 2 and 3 years, there have been riots all over, everywhere, from the lawyers, from the teachers, from
employees of state and private corporations.
Very good. So the environment was not very conducive. So I feel that when the issue of Northwest and South came and added to these already existing pools of conflict,
challenges,
it was very important at least to address, especially as we saw how the crisis was deepening. So it was very good to address properly the issue before going to election. So this was not properly addressed. So we are not very surprised. The other thing I want to mention that is a kind of explaining this is the role of the administration. The election body, Elecam, is doing a wonderful job. It's trying its best, at least, to do good work as far as election is concerned. But there is a kind of the hand of the administration, which is not making election to be free in the way it is. So that's why we have all this
administrative hand,
yes, in the election,
affecting the independence of elections.
Very true. So that is one of the things that explain why we are here today. I remember before the election, some political parties, for example, were prevented by some divisional officials from carrying out some rallies. That was already signed. And even in the Northwest and Southwest, there were all these curfews, travel bans, and so on. No, the contest was not very conducive. And during the campaign, many political parties were prevented from having their rallies, for example. And we were shocked, we at Wave Cameroon were very shocked to see in the far north the President of the National Assembly himself being a witness of people burning the effigies of another. No. When it's somebody from this Akabi, what do you expect? So these were signs that were not addressed. When that was done, nothing happened to him. You see, nothing happened to him. When the political parties were prevented, no, it was not a very big issue. So that's what I'm not surprised. But the most shocking thing for me was how the issue, because we are talking about the CRM now, with all these troubles, this recently, no.
Who's claiming victory?
Victory, yes. Even before the CRM, we all know what happened at the Constitutional Council. The CRM, the SDF, and yeah, they seized the court because they felt that things did not go on very well. But all these cases had they were to no avail, because they felt that the cases from whether SDF or CRM were not acceptable. But I do agree that they were not acceptable. But when something is not acceptable, we should do it the proper way. We all know the show that happened at the Constitutional Council. We all know what happened. They called the show
Live.
It was a live show where people simply requested for something, sign minutes, as simple as that. We were unable to have sign minutes. How do you expect people to feel that this are okay? No. Anybody will just feel that something went wrong because the show was live. And if you ask me, for example, please, Sylvie, to talk about this, please, can you give me the proof? Why not bring it? No, it's very simple, just bring it. But the fact of not bringing it, of creating this show, was a very bad indicator that there is something wrong. I'm very sure that if the CRM party was given the opportunity, or what the signed minutes were shown at the Constitutional Council and shown that they did not win the election, we will not be there today. The issue came on how the issue was, the problem was addressed even at that level. So that's why we have all these
protests here and there, and
yes,
protests which are often meet with serious and severe repression from forces of law and order, with persons injured, persons arrested and detained and so on, with leaders of the CRM political party, for example, Professor Maurice Kamto and the others, and several militants who are being detained today. Yeah.
I want to say, I mentioned, I'm a trade unionist. The right to protest is in our constitution, in our bylaws. It's the way you go about it. When it's a peaceful protest, there is no reason why it should be forbidden. I think we have made so many protests in the past. It's about the military or the police trying to make sure that things do not go out of hand. So I feel that what is going on is, for me, it's not very okay. It's a kind of violation. It's a violation, it's a violation of human rights, because that's why in 2014, when they came with this law, anti-terrorist law, I was very worried. I'm still worried today, because when you go in the law and you even read the definition of terrorism, you are confused. There is something that you can do and they will put on the name of terrorism. So I feel that the protests that were organized recently in Cameroon, for me, that we didn't need to go right where we are now, because there were peaceful protests. Even before, in the southwest and northwest, we saw how people were protesting. Unless people come out with guns that they are going to threaten, no, allow them to do their process peacefully. But I feel that all what has happened is because what you just said, the military. The strong presence of the military. When the military is there, not doing the role just to protect, it becomes a problem. I'm sure that if the military was there just to protect, not shooting, we wouldn't have been in this situation where we are today.
And the lawyers of the CRM party are expressing worries that those who have been arrested and detained with regards to the charges leveled against them, they could be tried in military courts and so on under the anti-terrorism law that you were talking about earlier. Are you calling for their release, for an end to those trials?
I am calling for a release, very clear and simple. I'm calling for their release because before they organized the protest, they announced, they didn't just go on the street on one day. They said that they declared that they were going to have this protest. And when
even though the authorities said that it was illegal.
I'm so annoyed to hear about this illegal, because at the same time we have seen many other rallies being organized and nobody stood against them. So no, it's about, I feel that there is a kind of deux poids deux mesures, as they say in French.
Judgment with two faces.
Yes, with two faces. We are not children. I feel that what we are talking about, Jonathan, is a very important topic. We are talking about peace and security. We are talking about the life of the Cameroonians. So if we keep playing or just playing around, well, we are not going to come out of it. We live in a country, we watch TV every day. We saw how some political party can just decide to go rally. They are never prevented from doing their rallies. While the others, why is it no? I feel there's something wrong. Everybody will be frustrated if it's treated that way. No, that's why I'm calling for the release of Professor Kamto and all these things, because I feel that it's a gross violation of their rights. They declared that they were going to do this march. We have seen, as you mentioned, the CPDM marching for long into the country with no. Why do they prevent them from marching? I feel that they should allow them to march. But in case there is a problem at that time, they should respond. That's it. But at this time, on the contrary, we saw people were shot. No, and I heard that they were not real bullets, or I don't know how they call it.
Not live bullets.
You know what? If that bullet touched your eyes, are they still going to say that it was not live bullet? No, I'm just asking the question. Those wounds that we saw on Metrin Doki, imagine it was on the belly. She would have been alive today. So no, we have to be very careful. I'm calling for their release because it's going to.
And some of the militants, including
of course, that's what I'm saying. And some of the militants, yes, no, that's horrible. And then when you talk about hospital beds, to be very honest, how do you want us to be respected? When somebody's even when you are in jail, and you are sick, you are taken from jail to the hospital. Yes, that's it.
Not the reverse.
Not the reverse. When people are in jail, no, it's not the end of their life. We need to get them reinserted in the communities. That's why when they are not in good condition, when they are not in good health, they are taken to the hospital. But how comes it's the other way around? How do you take somebody in the hospital and take to jail? I feel that they could have even told him that he's under arrest and then allow him, maybe kept some, because we have so many policemen in Cameroon, just kept some around him until he's okay before taking him. No, that's not okay. It's the other way around. Can you take somebody who is sick and take to prison? No, that's not okay. These are all the frustration that I feel that need to be addressed. If not, I'm very, very worried about the country. Really.
So how should these be prevented? These kind of happenings, violence before, during, and after elections. How should this violence be prevented?
I know that the first thing, like in other cases, is about dialogue, listening. Yes, the first step is listening. Until you take your time to listen. I told at the beginning of the program that our organization talk about addressing the root causes of the conflict. Whether all the CRM, the Professor Kamto and the military are killed, whether all the population of the northwest and southwest are killed, the problem is not going to be solved until we sit and ask ourselves, why are this population behaving like this? Why are this militant? Why? I know we need to really take time and listen and dialogue around the issue, because putting them in jail is not the solution. It's going to create more tension. So I feel the first thing to do is to really have a dialogue, proper dialogue on a conducive environment, like in a very trying to make people feel comfortable. You see, that's why you address the issue of militarism. No, let's say that the military are there for protection. But now, can we sit together in the same thing? So it's about dialogue. I think we need to address the dialogue. The second thing I feel is very important in the context of Cameroon. There are people arrested already. I think we need to, for me, they need to be released. Unless there are cases of, because we are not for violence, whether from the government side or from the civilian side. Unless we have clear evidence that somebody really perpetrated act of violence, to be able to have a conducive environment. Those who have been arrested from the crisis from 2016, who are still in jail, I think their cases should be heard and they should be released, because I know many of them have been arrested on political basis. Let them be released and we start proper dialogue. I think these are very important conditions without which we cannot start moving on. And also the women. I want to talk about the women. The women play a very critical role, even if in Cameroon they feel that women don't have a role to play. No. When we have we go into communities.
Women often relegate themselves to the background.
No, yes, that's what they say. You know what? When you grow in the community, in an environment, the environment kind of shape the way you think. So it's our role. That's why we have these provisions in our constitution, in our different bylaws. That's why we have different ministries. Even in all the ministries, we have the gender to support the women. It's about supporting the women, encouraging them, having them in decision-making position. When we visited some refugees camp, for example, women there can, even if the whole military of Cameroon come and say they are going to help, even the whole civilian, the ministry, they will not speak to them because they are men. So when they see men coming to them to listen to them, they don't speak out, because some are having some trauma out of their experiences as women with what has happened in the conflict situation. So they trust other women. So when we visit, they speak out to us. They open up to us. So it's very important to involve women in peace processes. I'm also very worried when I see all this commission, whether by equality and disarmament and so on. What, the women, where are they? Where are they? Experience has shown that all the peace processes, all the mediation processes in the world where women have been involved have always succeeded. So in Cameroon, they are not taking it, we are taking women for granted. No, women have a very important, so women need to be part and parcel of these peace processes. And also the youth. The youth, the youth are the majority of the population because of unemployment. That's why they are easily drawn into all these sects and so on and so forth. So it's very important to engage the youth. When you engage them, you have them at peace table. They feel comfortable. They feel useful. So it's very important to make it as inclusive as possible. So we need dialogue. We need ceasefire. We need women and youth at the table. But now, when we try in our organization to try to look into why are people behaving this way? Why is somebody able to take a gun to decide or a match to start and burn a school, a house? No, because this I mentioned in unemployment. It's very good to address all these things. Even social justice. All this what you are having, whether in Cameroon or in other countries, is about social justice. When the people feel that they are being discriminated, there is injustice. We are going to end the way we are ending. So it's about addressing the root causes, one of them being social justice. All right,
we're going to take interviews of the week right now. When we come back, we'll talk about your mission to Addis Ababa recently, and of course what the organization has been doing to promote peace in Cameroon and of course across the continent and the rest of the world. Stay with us.
He had better resign while he still can, or he should be dismissed. And we thought that was somebody who was reasonable and speaking. But the day he was made minister, as soon as he came out, he started to insult Anglophones. The same fellow.
he started to install Anglophones, and I was scratching my head, and I knew something was wrong with him. And I looked at him again, and I thought he was thinking more with his stomach than with his head. And he had just proven that he is a belly fellow, not a head fellow, and I think he needs a little bit of intelligence and cautioning. Because if he's going to continue like this, it's going to put Cameroon in a mess. He used power to solve problems for people, to come up with projects to help people, not to sit in your air-conditioned office on your coat and have your military people and then insult people. Insults is not what power you use power for.
The beginning of the week, we used to work at least 2,000 or 3,000 a day. But now, look, you can see this is our bike here. We are just loitering around. There's no car coming from Boya, neither Bamenda. All of the cars, they are parked inside this park. I myself, that I'm sitting here, I'm having 9 people in my house. I used to give 2,000 and it's not enough, of which when I was alone, I was eating like a person, but now nothing is moving. It's not making sense. I pray Papa God that let him put hand to this matter.
All what we want from the head of state is a better living, because none of us is enjoying what is happening now. Normally, I was supposed to be in school, but with the condition of things, we cannot even live in our homes or our area. I'm from Southwest, but this means Douala.
I think that the importation of products in our country is something that slows us down, because we have a country with opportunities and we have to develop those opportunities. I think that the importation also blocks us, in consuming our local products.
If you carry a project in a village without acknowledgement of population, we will not be sure that those population will take care of the project. If the road is not good, it's for them to call the delegate. It's for them to talk to the governor and say that what those people are doing is not a good job they are doing for the country.
We decided to prolong the mandate of the federations and our own mandate till the Olympic Games 2020. This is, I think it is reasonable, because we have started, all of us, to prepare the Olympic Games. We cannot stop the process now and leave the time for talking and battling for getting the positions. We have decided, and we approved, of course, that we will set up a master's degree in the INGS, supported by the African Center for Olympic Studies and the University of Yaoundé too, to patron that process to allow the young Cameroonian or young African to get the diploma of master's degrees on the Olympic studies.
You're welcome back, and we're still with our guest, Sylvie Ndongmo. She is the coordinator of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom for Africa, and of course the WIF president in the Cameroon, national coordinator of the Cameroon Women for Peaceful Elections. What has your organization been doing to prevent such happenings in the country?
The organization has key 4 areas. The first area is human rights. The second is disarmament. The third is women, peace and security. And the fourth is crisis response. I will start with this. Just one of them, the women, peace and security. Since our establishment in 2014, we started lobbying and advocacy towards the government through the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and Family to call to have a national action plan. We felt that women need to take initiative. Different stakeholders need to take initiative to have women in peace processes. And to be able to do that, it was very important to have a national action plan for 1325, so that the actions are known and they are coordinated from so our advocacy started with that in 2014. And we were able to conduct a study in Cameroon on the impact of conflict on women and girls. The study that we conducted had 2 objectives: to know the impact of the conflicts of women and girls in Cameroon, and also the level of understanding of this resolution. And the result of the studies were used by the Minister of the Women's Power and Family to draw the National Action Plan to identify the key areas in where to put emphasis when we are talking about peace and security in Cameroon. And one of them was prevention. Now, because one of them was prevention and participation, because 1325 resolution has as key pillars prevention and participation. One, to be very concrete, one of the things that our organization is doing regarding prevention and participation is the early warning mechanism called in French salle de veille et d'alerte. It's a women's early warning initiative. It's an initiative that started before in 2016. It gives women and youth a leading role throughout the election process in terms of preventing, educating, in terms of sensitizing and so on. So one of the things that we did before the election was, I'm just to go to name 3 of them. We organized community campaigns. We went around the country. We went to the north. We went to the west. We went to the east. We were about to go to Bamenda when our focal point in Bamenda said, please don't come because of the security. So we changed the strategy. So these community campaigns aim at educating, sensitizing the population on the need to take peace initiative, on the need to even participate as citizens.
Have they been yielding some fruits?
Yes, of course. Some of them. The second thing that we did was targeting the youth. For the youth, we insisted on their training in using the social media to build peace. If you know our organization and you have been on Facebook these 3 days, we have just organized with the youth branch a campaign, 1 day, 1 message of peace. The youth and the members of the organization and the partners responding to hate messages by peace messages, or also sharing messages of peace. The other thing that we did was to train election violence observers, and they had 2 missions. The mission was to educate, to go to their communities and educate the population on the need to use non-violent means to solve problems and to take peace initiative. Right. But they also had the role to report to us all the conflict-driven factors. And our role was to write a press briefing. We made press briefing to inform the community. We send words to the different authorities to alert them on the possible conflict-driven factors likely to fuel violence. This was done before the election. And on election day, 4 days before the election, we set up a physical call center with a hotline number, where people were able to call to get assistance, to report cases of violence on the field, and we, in our turn, were able to report the cases to the authorities.
Right, we're going to wrap up very briefly. You were recently in Addis Ababa for the AU Heads of States Gender Pre-Summit. What is that meeting all about?
The meeting is, as you said, the Gender Pre-Summit. African women always meet before the head of state summit to discuss the issues, the theme of the summit from the women's perspective, and they come out with recommendations that are put on the table of the head of state. So we went there to talk about this issue of IDPs. So that because the theme is around the IDPs, the refugees and IDPs. So personally, I went there to talk about the issues of IDPs in the Central African region. Of course, I mentioned the case of Cameroon because we have so many of them. People have moved from the southwest, from the northwest, and the IDPs. So it was about discussing the issue of IDPs. How can we have sustainable, what are the sustainable solutions that we can have, and propose them to the head of state.
And of course be expecting solutions during the AU summit of heads of states.
Yes, of course. One of the recommendations that we made during the pre-summit was for the head of state in general to address the root causes of conflict of all these issues. Why do we have IDPs? Because of poor governance, because of conflict, because of social justice. So it was important to make all this. So we made the recommendation for the head of state to take into account. I'm not talking about the case of Cameroon, we are talking about Africa in general. From all the experiences that were shared during the pre-summit, we had almost like the same issues causing all these IDPs and refugees issues, about poor governance, about poverty and so on. So one of the recommendations that we made was for the head of state to properly look into all these issues in terms of the election violence, because we have it in different countries, in terms of social justice, in terms of women's involvement, in terms of humanitarian assistance, because we also insisted on the humanitarian assistance of part of it, because we have many people dying in the forest and so on and so forth. So these are the things that we discussed in Addis Ababa, and we forwarded the recommendation to the head of state. We do hope that they are going to be taken into account to address these IDP issues in the continent in a very sustainable way.
All right, Jacqueline or Sylvie Ndongmo, you are a national and international peace crusader. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of The Insight. Take the appointment for next Sunday. Another edition will be coming up.